there's a question no one dares to ask out loud. A question that sits like a shadow beneath every Dharma talk, every incense-filled shrine, every silent meditation retreat. We say we seek Nirvana. We bow to it. We chant for it. But do we really know what we're asking for? Because deep down, some part of us suspects, is Nirvana actually death in disguise? Or is it the only real life there is? When I first heard the word Nirvana, I imagined light, freedom, an endless ocean of peace. But as I went deeper, as I studied the text, as I listened not to the monks on stage, but to the silence between their words, I began to feel something else, a haunting, a void, an undoing, not joy, not bliss, but absence, not presence, but the erasure of presence. And I began to wonder, what if Nirvana isn't what we think it is? The Pali Canon says, Nirvana is a cessation of suffering. Fair enough. But it also says, it is a cessation of becoming, the end of becoming, the end of identity, the end of rebirth. In plain terms, the end of you. And yet, that's what we're striving for? I remember sitting on a cracked stone bench outside a temple in Chiang Mai. A monk in faded orange robes sat beside me. We had barely spoken for an hour, and yet, out of nowhere, he said, "You know, Nirvana is like a flame going out." He smiled when he said it, but something in me recoiled. A flame going out? That's it? Not a sunrise? Not a cosmic union? Not enlightenment as some divine superpower? Just extinguishing? I didn't sleep that night, because if Nirvana is the end of desire, the end of becoming, the end of ego and self and karma, then what exactly is left? Who is there to be free? Who is there to feel peace? And if no one is there, is that peace or is that just death? Most people won't say this out loud. It sounds sacrilegious. It sounds ignorant. It sounds afraid. But I'm not here to perform reverence. I'm here to speak what others swallow. And here's what I see. Most people don't want Nirvana. Not really. They want a better life, a freer identity, a more enlightened self. But Nirvana doesn't give you that. It doesn't upgrade the you. It deletes it. And maybe that's exactly what makes it sacred. Maybe what terrifies us most is what sets us free. But we have to be honest first. Brutally honest. Because unless we admit the fear, we'll never see the truth. And the truth is this. Nirvana isn't a reward. It's a relinquishment. In the next chapter, I'll take you to the early scriptures, the raw language of the Buddha himself, where we'll ask, what did he mean when he said the word Nibbana? And why did he refuse to define it? When the Buddha was asked, is Nirvana eternal? He stayed silent. When asked, does the enlightened one exist after death? He stayed silent. And when asked, is Nirvana a place, a state, a nothingness? He said nothing at all. This wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't evasion. It was precision. He called it the noble silence. Not because he didn't know, but because you can't know the way you know anything else. Not with concepts, not with logic, not with language. Nirvana isn't something the mind can hold. It's what remains when the mind drops its grasping. And so, he refused to define it. But that refusal, that silence, has become a source of infinite speculation. Is it annihilation? Is it bliss? Is it merging with cosmic oneness? Ask 10 Buddhists, get 11 answers. Because silence, though wise, is also a mirror. And we project into that mirror whatever we fear or desire the most. Theravada says, Nirvana is unconditioned. No birth, no death, no becoming. Mahayana says, Nirvana and samsara are not two. They interpenetrate. They collapse. Some modern Buddhists say Nirvana is a psychological event, a rewiring of perception, freedom from delusion. Others say it's emptiness itself, not a place to go, but a realization of what was never there. So what did the Buddha mean? He used many metaphors: a flame going out, a river reaching the ocean, a fire losing its fuel. But he never said, Nirvana is X, because to define it would be to trap it in the very net of concepts we're trying to escape. And yet, that leaves us in limbo, because the path is hard, renunciation is hard, letting go of the self is terrifying, and we walk this firestorm toward a goal that is undefined. It's no wonder some modern minds reject Nirvana entirely. It's just death, they say, a religious fantasy, a metaphysical carrot dangling before our suffering. And maybe for some, it is. But for others, it's not the promise of bliss that drives the path. It's the ending of illusion. And that alone is worth walking toward, even if it means disappearing. There's a moment in the text when the Buddha says, there is that which is unborn, uncreated, unformed, unconditioned. If that didn't exist, he said, there would be no escape. No escape from sorrow, from identity, from becoming. But because it does exist, there is liberation. And maybe that's the only clue we need. Not a definition, not a map, but a whisper. There is something beyond the fire. Let's be honest. There's something terrifying about Nirvana. Not just mysterious, but unsettling. We dress it in poetry, call it bliss, peace, the end of suffering. But peel back the metaphors, and something darker emerges. Because what we're really talking about is the end of becoming. And if becoming ends, who are you? Every religion promises something: heaven, union, rebirth in a better realm. But Buddhism? Buddhism dares to offer nothing. Not nothingness. Nothing you can hold. No heaven. No soul. No eternal self. Just this. Stop clinging. And what do you get? You don't get anything. You stop being God. And that's the terror. Because we don't just fear death. We fear dissolution. The vanishing of the story. The collapse of the character. The quiet, slow fading of everything we believed was me. Even suffering, twisted as it sounds, is something we can hold. Pain affirms presence. Desire affirms identity. Grasping affirms that there's someone here to grasp. But Nirvana, it dissolves all of that. It's the erasure of the affirmation. The Buddhist path isn't a self-improvement project. It's a self-erasure project. Not building a better version of you, but seeing that the you was never there. And this is where even sincere practitioners hit a wall. Because as long as we want Nirvana, we can't have it. As long as we crave freedom, we're not free. As long as there's a someone moving toward liberation, that someone is the illusion. I remember once sitting with a Zen teacher. I asked her, what is awakening? She looked at me, smiled with eyes that had seen too much, and said, awakening is realizing there's no one to awaken. I didn't understand. Not then. But now, I see the wound her words left behind. A wound where ego used to be. And so, we come to the real fear. Not that Nirvana is death, but that it's something worse to the ego, irrelevance. That all our striving, our identity, our suffering, our seeking, meant nothing. That there was never a me to suffer, to seek, or to awaken. And yet, here's the paradox. Only by facing that fear does something shift. Only when we walk into the void with eyes wide open do we discover not a horror, but a freedom so vast the self can't survive it. And maybe that's the point. What if Nirvana isn't death? but the death of the illusion of death? What if it's not life, but the life that remains when the need for life ends? A life that is not defined by heartbeat, by breath, by thought, but by presence without reference. Next, we go deeper into this, into the stories of those who claimed to taste nirvana and what they said or didn't say afterward. There's a strange pattern in Buddhist texts. The moment someone claims to attain nirvana, they go quiet. No more teachings, no more debates, no more grand declarations of truth, just silence, presence, stillness. And for many of us, this is frustrating. You reach the summit and then say nothing? Where are the fireworks, the instructions, the proof? When the Buddha attained awakening, he sat silently under the Bodhi tree for days, not preaching, not proclaiming, just sitting. And when he finally spoke, his words were careful, measured, often more like riddles than revelations. When his disciples reached arahantship, many simply left, vanished into forests, living quietly, unseen. Even in Mahayana texts, when bodhisattvas touch the highest truths, they fall silent or speak in paradox. Why? Why does realization breed silence? Because what they've seen can't be said. Because the mind that wants to explain is the very thing that dissolved. Because truth in its purest form has no opposite. It can't be argued. It can't be proved. It just is. And the self, the one who wanted to know, is gone. This is not what we want to hear. We want stories, certainty, a path with steps and milestones and success badges. We want a self to walk the path and a self to arrive at the goal. But nirvana kills the story. It doesn't add a new chapter. It burns the book. In the Udana, one of the earliest Buddhist texts, the Buddha said, "There is, monks, a realm where there is no earth, no water, no fire, no air, no coming, no going, no standing still, no death, no birth. It is not this world, not another world. It is the end of suffering." What kind of place is this? It's not a place at all, and those who enter it or glimpse it can't bring it back. Not because they're selfish, but because to try to speak it is to lose it, like trying to describe light to someone born blind. Not because they're unworthy, but because language is too small. So the enlightened grow quiet, not out of arrogance, not out of secrecy, but because the final truth is lived, not told. And this too is part of the fear, because it means no one can carry us there. No guru, no method, no mantra, only our own undoing. So what happens after enlightenment? Maybe the better question is, who is there to experience anything at all? We talk about awakening like it's a prize, something to win, something to achieve, a goal at the end of effort. But here's the irony no one wants to face. The one who seeks enlightenment doesn't survive it. Think about that. The meditator, the seeker, the spiritual ego who journals and chants and renounces and strives, that self gets obliterated, not punished, not rejected, just seen for what it is, an illusion made of grasping. And illusions, once seen through, don't linger. This is why, at the heart of the Buddhist path, there's no guarantee of comfort. You don't become a better you. You don't upgrade your soul. You realize you never had one. And in that realization, all stories collapse. No past to defend, no future to build, no self to protect. Just presence, vast, silent, unclinging. But the ego doesn't want this. The ego wants enlightenment like a new wardrobe, a shinier identity, an enlightened me who is calm, wise, and admired. A self that is spiritual, but still very much there. And so we chase experiences, peak states, mystical visions, transcendent highs, all of which feel profound, but none of which are liberation, because liberation isn't an experience. It's the end of the one who experiences. This is why the Buddha warned, don't confuse altered states with awakening. Don't mistake tranquility for truth. And most of all, don't use the Dharma as another mask, because when the self uses the path to strengthen itself, that path becomes a loop. Samsara in disguise. True awakening doesn't inflate you. It erases you. And paradoxically, that erasure reveals a kind of life that no self could ever imagine. A freedom that is not mine. A peace that isn't felt. A presence that doesn't belong. Just this. So yes, awakening is death, but not the death of the body, the death of the dreamer, the one who believed they were real, the one who wanted to transcend, the one who asked the question, what happens after enlightenment? That one dissolves, and what remains? Not a new self, not a God, not a void, just reality, unfiltered, unowned, unending. Let's be clear about something. Nirvana is not for you, not for the ego, not for the seeker, not for the one listening to these words, hoping for a glimpse of eternity. Because the closer that you gets to Nirvana, the more it burns. Like a moth drawn to a flame, not realizing the flame is the end of flight. The problem isn't that awakening is far, it's that it's too close. So close, the self can't see it, because the self is what blocks the view. We look for Nirvana, like a fish searching for water. We meditate, study, chant, hoping to find it. But all the while, it was the you doing the seeking that had to vanish. This is the most maddening paradox. To reach what is beyond self, the self must dissolve. But the self is what's trying to do the dissolving. So it resists, it disguises, it turns surrender into strategy, and the Dharma becomes just another self-help project. But the Dharma doesn't care about your improvement. It's not here to polish your personality. It's not here to help you manifest your dreams. It's here to help you wake up from the dreamer itself, to see that what you call you is a fabrication, a mirage. And Nirvana is the wind that blows the mirage away. But here's the twist. The moment you truly stop seeking, stop trying to get anything out of practice, something opens. Not because you earned it, not because you understood it, but because the very machinery of becoming has shut down. And in that silence, something shines, but not for you, never for you. You won't be there to enjoy it. You won't be there to claim it, because you was the veil. And once it lifts, nothing is left but the view. This is why so many never touch it, because they're still seeking, still holding a hidden agenda. I'll give up everything if I get something better in return. But Nirvana doesn't trade. It doesn't bargain. It doesn't reward. It just is. And it requires that everything falls away. So stop chasing. Stop grasping. Stop trying to be holy. Burn your maps. Drop your strategies. Let the silence come. And then maybe, just maybe, in the ashes of you, a different kind of light appears. We've been speaking of Nirvana as if it's a flame that goes out. But what if that metaphor, the extinguishing, the ending, is only part of the truth? What if Nirvana isn't the extinguishing of the flame, but the realization that the flame never really burned? Think of it like this. The fire of becoming, the hunger, the striving, the pain, feels so real. It dances in your chest. It roars in your thoughts. It eats through every moment with the question, what next? But when the fire finally dies, you look around and realize there was no fuel to begin with. This is the shocking core of Buddhist realization. Not that the world is an illusion, but that the self who suffered it was never really there. Not as a thing, not as a substance, just as a process, a pattern, a habit, a mirage that kept reflecting itself and calling that reflection me. So Nirvana isn't just a final breath. It's a shift in seeing. It's what happens when you look directly at the flame of identity and realize it was only ever shadows on the cave wall of mind. And when you see that, deeply and without clinging, everything changes. You still breathe. You still move. You still walk and eat and speak. But the one doing it is gone. And somehow, it's not terrifying. It's not sad. It's liberation. This is a life that doesn't depend on being someone. It's the peace that doesn't rely on things going your way. It's the joy that doesn't need a story to be true. And once touched, even for a moment, it leaves a trace, a silent echo that reminds you you were never bound. So is Nirvana death. Not in the way we fear, not the death of the body, not even the death of experience, but the death of confusion, of clinging, of the illusion that something was ever truly yours. And is it life? Not in the way we hope. Not life as identity, not life as narrative, but life as clarity, life as presence, life as the unfolding of form, without a self to distort it, a flame that never burned, and so never had to be put out. If there's no self to save, if there's no one to awaken, if even Nirvana isn't a thing to get, why walk the path at all? Why meditate, study, renounce, inquire? Why follow a discipline that dissolves the very one who follows? It's the final paradox, and maybe the most important one, because once the illusion is seen, there's no reward waiting, no applause, no badge, not even a final answer. Just this. The path becomes the point, not to arrive, but to dissolve, not to possess truth, but to be lived by it, not to become holy, but to unmake the one who seeks holiness. The great Zen master Dogen said, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things, not by dogma, not by scripture, but by everything, the wind, the breath, the silence between thoughts, all of it, a teaching. So we walk the path not for attainment, but because there is no other way to live honestly once you've glimpsed the truth. We sit in meditation not to become awakened, but because sitting itself reveals what is already awake. We chant not to earn merit, but because the sound of emptiness has a music of its own. It's not about you getting somewhere. It's about what remains when you no longer need to get anywhere. And what remains is not nothing. It's everything seen without distortion. Life, not owned, not clung to, not filtered through fear or desire, just lived, fully, freely, wordlessly. And that perhaps is what we've called Nirvana all along. Not death, not eternal life, but the end of pretending, the end of chasing, the end of me, and in its place, a stillness that moves, a flame that doesn't burn, a truth that doesn't speak, but is. So why walk the path? Because once you've seen through the illusion, there's no other path left to walk. Only this one, this breath, this moment. Not to arrive, but to disappear, and in disappearing, to finally live.